Have you ever wondered what happens when an ordinary person is forced to face losses that change life forever? Ryūji Matsuyama seemed like just a dedicated teacher, but the unexpected death of his student revealed a restless mind full of questions that many of us do not even dare to think about. What if curiosity about the afterlife is not just philosophy, but a way to deal with guilt, fear, and pain? And it is exactly this journey that we are going to explore in this video. Each trauma, each reflection, each choice that shapes a man who has learned to live and survive amid chaos. We will understand how pain and curiosity walk together, creating a fascinating and strategic mind ready to reveal the secrets of the Borderland. If you are a fan of cinema, psychology, and want to understand the mind behind your favorite character, subscribe to the channel now so you do not miss any video. Where in the world are you watching this video from right now? Leave your answer in the comments. Ryūji Matsuyama is the type of character who seems ordinary at first glance, but who carries unexpected depth. A dedicated teacher, always attentive to the details of his students' lives, he sparks immediate curiosity. He is the kind of guy who, even in everyday life, observes the world with an almost investigative gaze, as if trying to decipher the small mysteries of life. Have you ever met someone who pays attention to every gesture and word? Ryūji is exactly like that, only at an almost obsessive level. What stands out is how his personality combines discipline and empathy, but also a touch of melancholy. He is not just a teacher giving lessons, but someone who seeks meaning in every action and reaction around him. It is almost as if he is constantly testing reality, looking for patterns that others do not even notice. Have you ever found yourself analyzing someone to the point of wondering what is behind every glance? Ryūji does this effortlessly. From the beginning, we notice that he has a restless mind, especially regarding existential questions. His curiosity about the afterlife is not just intellectual speculation, but a need to understand what happens when life ends. Imagine the emotional burden this carries, living life with the constant thought that there is something beyond, something unknown and possibly revealing. This trait already says a lot about how he deals with fear and loss. At the same time, Ryūji is marked by a sense of responsibility that goes beyond the expected limits. He cares for his students in an almost parental way, always trying to protect them from situations he himself perceives as dangerous. This dedication can be admirable, but it also puts him on a collision course with the cruel reality of the world of Alice in Borderland. Have you ever felt the frustration of wanting to protect someone and feeling powerless? He experiences this intensely. There is also a dark side to his curiosity. The obsession with understanding the afterlife and human motivations sometimes makes him vulnerable to moral dilemmas and heavy reflections. It is as if every answer he seeks could bring more doubts than solutions. Ryūji is not just seeking knowledge but meaning, and this search turns him into someone fascinating and complex. Have you ever felt this need to search for meaning to the point of losing some peace? Ryūji is not impulsive, but his decisions are deeply influenced by his introspection. He thinks before acting, weighs consequences, and even so, finds himself in situations that test his limits. The awareness that each choice has weight is reflected in his interactions, making him cautious but also admirably strategic. It is that feeling that every step must be carefully calculated, even amid chaos. Finally, the first impression we have of him is that of an ordinary man, but closer observation reveals the complexity of his mind. He carries curiosity, empathy, and responsibility mixed with traces of melancholy and obsession with the unknown. Each layer of his personality is revealed gradually, and it is impossible not to wonder how he will react in the face of the adversities of the deadly game that awaits him. Have you ever felt that someone apparently ordinary could surprise you profoundly? Ryūji is that kind of character. And it is this initial complexity that prepares us to understand Ryūji's greater conflict, his personal story, his traumas, and the impact they have on his choices. Before diving into the shadows of his mind, we need to explore what made him this way and how these elements shape his journey. Do you want to follow me to the next step? Ryūji carries a story that mixes dedication, pain, and curiosity about the unknown. As a teacher, he always sought to connect with students, but this approach brought emotional risks he could not foresee. Tragedy knocked on his door cruelly, and each experience he lived seems to have amplified his restlessness about life and what comes after it. Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, some things simply escape your control? Ryūji experiences this constantly. The crucial point of his story is the murder of his student, an event that transformed his inner world. Until then, he saw his role as protector and mentor. After the crime, he faced human helplessness in the face of violence. This experience left deep marks, questions about justice and guilt that would shape his view of himself and others. It is as if life had shown that not every effort guarantees protection. In addition to the trauma of the murder, Ryūji carries an existential obsession understanding the afterlife. This fascination is not just philosophical, but an attempt to cope with the pain of loss and the mystery of what happens when life ends. Each reflection on death brings him closer to the cruel reality of the Borderland, making him more perceptive but also more vulnerable to deep anguish. Have you ever found yourself reflecting so much on death that it changes the way you live? He lives exactly this. His story also reveals how curiosity and responsibility can become a double-edged sword. Ryūji wants to protect, wants to understand, but these intentions put him in conflict with the brutal reality around him. He constantly needs to balance empathy and caution, care and survival. It is that internal battle between what he wants to do and what the situation demands, and this tension defines his choices at every step. The murder of his student brought feelings of guilt, anger, and frustration to the surface, and he deals with it silently, even if he does not show it outwardly. Each decision he makes is marked by this emotional weight. It is like carrying a shadow that extends over all his movements, making every action more calculated, more full of meaning. Have you ever felt that something from the past influences every step you take? Ryūji feels this constantly. On the other hand, these experiences make Ryūji more empathetic and strategic. He observes human behavior, analyzes patterns, and anticipates actions, skills that prove essential in the world of Alice in Borderland. Pain and trauma, paradoxically, transform him into someone capable of surviving and protecting those he considers important. It is as if tragedy had carved in him an almost surgical attention to the details of life and death. Ryūji's story shows us that it is not just about external events, but how he processes each experience. His mind is a terrain of curiosity, pain, and the search for meaning where every memory and every loss shapes future decisions. He does not react impulsively. He calculates, reflects, and learns, even under intense pressure. Imagine living in constant alert, where every step must be analyzed and weighed. Murder of the student, the murder of his student, is the trauma that weighs most heavily on Ryūji's life. And not only because of the act itself, but because of the impact it had on his sense of responsibility. He saw himself as a protector, someone who could prevent the worst, and when he failed, he felt the weight of helplessness fall on his shoulders. It is like carrying an invisible backpack full of stones that each future decision must balance. Have you ever felt that? No matter how hard you try, some things escape your control. He feels this every day. This event left deep scars, both emotional and psychological. Ryūji began to question his own effectiveness, his ability to understand the people around him, and even his morality. Each memory of the lost student is a silent arrow, reminding him that life is fragile and unpredictable. It is a weight that does not disappear, but shapes the way he observes and interacts with the world. Beyond guilt, he feels a contained anger, directed not only at the murderer, but at reality itself. The Borderland, with its cruel and unpredictable rules, seems to echo this sense of injustice. Ryūji realizes that violence can arise from the least expected places, and this awareness increases his constant vigilance. It is as if every move must be calculated not to repeat past mistakes. The trauma also reveals Ryūji's human side, making him more empathetic toward those who suffer. He understands the pain of loss, the frustration of helplessness, and this guides his decisions, making him someone capable of reading emotions and intentions with greater precision. Tragedy transformed into a lens that amplifies his perception of reality. Have you noticed how painful experiences can, paradoxically, make us more attentive to others? However, there is also the fear of failing again, which merges with his curiosity about the afterlife. Ryūji constantly asks himself what happens after life ends, seeking answers that can ease his sense of guilt. Each reflection on his student's death is also an attempt to understand the unknown, to find some meaning amid chaos. Have you ever found yourself seeking answers in moments of intense pain? He does this constantly. This trauma not only makes him cautious, but also resilient. Ryūji learns to cope with uncertainty and the need to protect, even knowing it will not always be possible. It is a silent force that drives him, even when the emotional weight seems overwhelming. He transforms tragedy into strategic vigilance, learning to anticipate dangers and act with precision. The loss of his student also shapes his view of justice and morality. He understands that the world is not black and white, and that protecting someone can involve complex and painful choices. Each decision he makes is permeated by this awareness, making his mind a mixture of logic, ethics, and emotion, ready to face difficult dilemmas. It is like balancing plates on fire without dropping any of them. And it is precisely this trauma that paves the way for the next crucial point in his psychology, his obsession with the afterlife and the need to understand what comes after life. The pain of losing someone close and the search for existential answers are closely connected. Curiosity about the afterlife. Ryūji's curiosity about the afterlife is not just a philosophical interest. It is an emotional need born of pain and loss. He wants to understand what happens when life ends, seeking answers that can ease the guilt and emptiness left by the murder of his student. It is like trying to assemble a puzzle with pieces that seem not to exist, but he persists. Driven by this restlessness, have you ever reflected so much on the unknown that it seems almost tangible? He lives this daily. This constant search for what lies beyond life transforms the way he perceives the world. Every detail, every human gesture, takes on multiple layers of meaning. Ryūji becomes attentive to subtle signals, body language, and the morality of actions, as if trying to decipher codes that indicate destinies beyond the physical. It is a mind that never rests, always analyzing, always questioning. However, this curiosity also carries a dark side, the obsession. He risks diving into thoughts that can amplify his suffering, thinking about deaths he has witnessed and consequences that could have been avoided. The line between curiosity and torment becomes thin, and each reflection on the death of others or his own brings him closer to his emotional limit. Have you ever felt that knowing too much about something can paradoxically hurt more than it helps? Ryūji feels this intensely. At the same time, his search for the afterlife shapes his strategic choices. He acts with caution, observes patterns, and tries to anticipate events not only to survive, but to understand possible outcomes. It is like playing chess with your own life, where every move must be thought out with the awareness that the ending is uncertain. This perception sharpens his mind, making him perceptive and calculating. This fascination with the unknown also humanizes Ryūji, showing a man who faces his fears with intellectual courage. He does not shy away from death, but faces it, trying to mentally dialogue with it, attempting to extract meaning from what seems incomprehensible. It is a reminder that curiosity, even amid pain, can be a form of resistance. Have you ever used questioning as a shield to cope with reality? He does this constantly. The afterlife, for Ryūji, is not just an idea, but a lens that refracts his entire life experience. Every loss, every trauma, every sense of helplessness is interpreted through this search. He learns to analyze the world not only for what is visible, but for what may exist beyond, and this makes him simultaneously vulnerable and powerful. Even though it is an intellectual interest, curiosity about the afterlife is filled with emotion and urgency. He wants answers to reconnect with life, understand those who have passed, and perhaps find some form of redemption for himself. It is as if each reflection is a step toward healing, even if painful and uncertain. And it is precisely this psychological trait that connects directly to the next layer of his personality, how these traumas and this obsession shape his choices, actions, and the way he faces the borderland. Ryūji's traumas shape every action he takes, creating a delicate balance between caution and courage. The loss of his student and the obsession with the afterlife are not just memories, they are silent forces guiding his behavior. He thinks before acting, analyzes every possibility, and avoids impulsive decisions as if every choice could repeat past mistakes. Have you ever felt that your past experiences shape even the smallest movements of your day? He lives this intensely. His personality becomes a complex mix of empathy and vigilance. He observes people attentively, but not invasively. It is a strategic curiosity that helps him understand intentions and risks. This balance is a direct result of the traumas he has carried, teaching him to protect those around him without losing himself in uncontrolled emotions. It is like learning to dance on the edge between care and survival. At the same time, the traumas intensify his sense of responsibility. Ryūji feels that every life that crosses his path has weight, and that his actions can influence destinies. This awareness makes him careful, meticulous, and even calculating. But not cold, he acts with humanity, even when the situation demands difficult decisions. It is a constant reminder that empathy and strategy can coexist, even under extreme pressure. The impact of trauma is also visible in his silent courage. He faces the borderland not because he is invulnerable, but because he has learned to channel pain into determination. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to test limits, not only physical, but also mental and emotional. Have you noticed how people marked by pain can develop an almost invisible strength, which only reveals itself in critical moments? Ryūji is like that. His obsession with the afterlife influences his choices in a strategic and ethical way. He acts so that each decision has meaning, trying to anticipate outcomes and minimize suffering. This constant reflection keeps him alert, but also humanizes him, showing that even in a chaotic world, he seeks to maintain principles he considers essential. It is proof that experience and introspection can be powerful weapons. These traumas also make him resilient in the face of the unpredictability of the borderland. Ryūji learns to deal with uncertainty and transform fear into analysis, making each step conscious and each action strategic. He does not ignore emotions, but uses them as fuel to better understand human behavior and the consequences of each choice. It is like walking on hot coals, painful but formative. At the same time, these experiences reinforce his natural curiosity. He observes patterns, questions intentions, and explores possibilities, all guided by the desire not to repeat past mistakes. It is a continuous cycle of learning and adaptation where trauma and emotional intelligence combine to form a unique and deep personality. Have you noticed how major traumas can awaken unexpected abilities? Ryūji is a living example of this. In the Borderland, Ryūji's traumas manifest clearly in every decision he makes. The loss of his student made him extremely vigilant, always analyzing risks and anticipating threats as if each step could save or condemn lives. He does not act impulsively. Every move is calculated, shaped by the weight of the past. It is like playing a deadly game knowing that any mistake can be final, and he faces this with almost surgical caution. His obsession with the afterlife influences how he approaches the death of other players. He observes carefully, trying to understand behaviors and motivations as if each death had hidden lessons. This curiosity is not morbid, it is strategic, allowing him to learn and adapt. Have you noticed how people who have gone through intense traumas develop a sharp perception of human behavior? Ryūji is a living example of this. Trauma also reinforces his sense of empathy, even in an environment where many abandon morality. He connects with other players, trying to protect those he can, always weighing consequences. This combination of caution, empathy, and constant analysis makes him a valuable and unpredictable ally, because his decisions always carry multiple layers of meaning. It is the mark of someone who has learned from pain and transforms it into strategy. At the same time, the fear of failing again drives Ryūji to remain attentive to the smallest changes around him. Every gesture, expression, or choice of the other players is observed carefully, creating a psychological advantage that few notice. He learns to anticipate behaviors, avoiding surprises, but without losing his humanity. It is like walking on a minefield, where each step must be measured. His resilience in the face of danger is a direct consequence of the traumas he has experienced. He does not freeze in the face of death or chaos. On the contrary, he transforms anxiety into focus and guilt into conscious action. In the Borderland, this ability is essential because survival depends as much on the mind as on the body. Have you ever wondered how painful experiences can make us stronger in extreme situations? Ryūji shows this in practice. The traumas also make him a silent strategist. He learns to balance risks and rewards, protecting himself and others at the same time. Each move is thought out, each decision calculated, and even under extreme pressure, he manages to maintain mental clarity. It is like playing chess on a board where pieces can disappear at any moment, and he stands out precisely for this anticipation. Moreover, his past experiences make him value communication and observation. He understands that alliances and trust are fragile, and that every word or gesture can change the course of a situation. This attention to detail, fueled by traumas, makes his interaction with other players strategic, empathetic, and calculated at the same time. It is the perfect combination of mind and emotion, and it is precisely this behavioral complexity that prepares us for the next point of the script, how these layers of trauma, curiosity, and vigilance come together to form the complete personality of Ryūji Matsuyama. Ryūji's traumas can be compared to invisible wounds that shape our daily behavior, just as happens in real life. For example, someone who has lost a close friend may develop caution similar to his, learning to value each decision and action. It is a reminder that painful experiences, although difficult, can teach us to be more attentive and strategic, transforming pain into learning. Ryūji's obsession with the afterlife is similar to those people who seek existential answers after a major loss. Anyone who has lost a loved one knows how the need arises to understand what happens after. This curiosity is not just theoretical, it is a way to deal with anxiety, guilt, and helplessness. He reflects what many of us feel in silence, trying to make sense of something that seems senseless. The trauma of his student's murder can also be compared to situations where professionals, such as doctors or teachers, face failures beyond their control. The feeling of helplessness, of not being able to protect someone, is devastating. Ryūji transforms this experience into vigilance and constant analysis, showing how learning from pain can generate skills that save lives, or at least make us more perceptive. His combination of empathy and strategy resembles that of leaders who had to make difficult decisions after personal crises. Anyone who has faced complex ethical dilemmas knows that every choice carries weight, and the past strongly influences the present. Ryūji is an example of how traumas can teach one to balance emotion and logic, creating a deep understanding of human behavior. Moreover, his way of observing human patterns is reminiscent of investigators or psychologists who study the mind to prevent future tragedies. He uses each loss and traumatic experience as data to improve future decisions. It is the practical application of personal experiences to create strategies for survival and emotional understanding, something we can see in everyday life across many professions and situations. Trauma also reveals the importance of resilience and adaptability. Just as someone who has experienced a major disappointment learns to protect themselves without closing off, Ryūji channels his pain into awareness and strategy. He reminds us that life can be unpredictable, but it is possible to transform vulnerabilities into strength, even in a silent and almost imperceptible way. The search for the afterlife and the weight of guilt reflect the inner struggle of many people trying to reconcile pain, learning, and growth. Ryūji shows that continuous reflection on losses and traumas does not have to paralyze, but can guide more conscious actions and more assertive decisions. It is like using invisible scars as compasses to navigate life. In the end, these analogies make us see Ryūji not only as a character from a series, but as a reflection of what all of us can feel when facing losses, traumas, and existential questions. He teaches us that even in the most extreme situations, it is possible to transform pain into perception, curiosity into learning, and suffering into life strategy. Ryūji Matsuyama is the fusion of traumas, curiosity, and empathy, forming a deeply complex character. Each painful experience, each loss, and each reflection on death shapes his strategic mind and human sensitivity. He is not only a survivor of the Borderland, he is someone who transforms pain into perception, caution into action, and existential questioning into analytical skill. It is like observing a calm ocean on the surface, but with powerful and unpredictable currents below. His personality is marked by constant vigilance, a direct result of his history and the traumas he has carried. He observes others, interprets signals, and anticipates movements, all while dealing with guilt and curiosity about the afterlife. This attention to detail makes him a valuable ally, but also someone who acts with deliberation, reflecting on each choice before executing it. Have you noticed how certain people seem to see the world more clearly, precisely because they have experienced deep losses? Ryūji is like that. The weight of his student's murder and his existential obsession intertwine, influencing his ethics, decisions, and relationships. He is empathetic without being naive, strategic without being cold, and resilient without becoming indifferent. It is a rare mix of humanity and rationality, where each action carries multiple meanings and intentions. He shows that traumas not only leave marks, but can also guide choices with emotional intelligence. His curiosity about the afterlife is a silent engine that fuels his attention and reflection. It leads him to question intentions, analyze behaviors, and anticipate consequences, making him exceptionally perceptive in the unpredictable environment of the Borderland. At the same time, this constant search keeps him connected to his own humanity, reminding that every life has value and every action has impact. It is the balance between a strategic mind and an attentive heart. Ryūji also represents the power of silent resilience. He is not a loud hero. His greatness lies in the ability to learn from pain, transform negative experiences into wisdom, and act calmly amid chaos. It is a lesson on how to face extreme challenges with intelligence, empathy, and constant reflection. Have you noticed how people marked by pain can become surprisingly strong even without displaying physical strength or dramatic cries? Another central trait is his ethic of protection and responsibility. He feels the weight of every life under his observation, making him careful and deliberate but never passive. This awareness shapes his interaction with others and his survival strategies. Creating a character who is both a leader and a silent mentor, it is a combination of perception, care, and assertiveness, something few can balance naturally. Moreover, Ryūji reflects human duality, vulnerable and powerful, questioning and decisive, emotional and rational. Each layer of his personality is linked to traumas, experiences, and curiosity, creating a character that is simultaneously identifiable and intriguing. He reminds us that even in extreme worlds like the Borderland, human complexities continue to shape choices and behaviors. And it is precisely this richness of personality that makes Ryūji Matsuyama a fascinating character. A man shaped by pain, but guided by empathy and reflection. Someone who teaches us that trauma and curiosity can be tools for survival and growth. From here, we can create the engaging introduction for the video, connecting the audience immediately to his story. So, what did you think of diving into the mind of Ryūji Matsuyama? Every detail of his story, every trauma, and every curiosity about the unknown shows us how painful experiences can shape choices and transform the way we see the world. Now, I want to know from you, which character do you want me to analyze in the next video on the channel? If you connected with this analysis, make sure to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. This way, you continue following every detail, every reflection, and every discovery about the characters that awaken so much fascination and learning. After all, understanding their stories is also understanding a little more about ourselves.